Okay, hello. Facebook and YouTube. Okay, I'm live. I'm just waiting for people to turn up now. Okay. No one's here yet. Facebook is my slowest start with lives. It takes the longest for people to come on Facebook, but then it picks up and it's just as busy as Instagram and TikTok now. Okay, I'm just waiting for more people to turn up before we really get going. I don't know why I have those fairy lights on behind me. It's a very sunny, bright day out, but I have to close the blinds because I get the night sun in my apartment. So I'm just trying to light up the inside as best as I can. So Felicia Lavesto Love, is that your real name? I've got a client I've got a couple clients. They've got just gorgeous names, very similar. Well, not sounding similar, but just really pretty names. Okay. Is that your real name? I'm just curious. Or is it like a handle? Okay, we've got enough to get going. I'll get going. I'll start talking about parenting now. Anyway, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you look in the link above in my bio or description, wherever you're looking, you'll see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and my coaching. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I used to do these lives every single day for about 2 years, and I've just gotten busy and I just can't do them. I'm going to get through my emails tonight. That's my goal tonight, is get through my emails. So yeah, I'm just really busy these days. So I've got to learn how to manage stuff, and the lives are the first thing that had to go because it's kind of difficult. How do you discipline a troubled teen? You connect with them by being a leader. You give respect to get it. So it's a bit of a process. It's not an easy thing to do. You don't discipline a troubled teen. You connect with them, and then you've got some leverage once they respect you. So yeah, you got to work on your parenting, and teenage stuff is almost always coaching. But I'll read my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Teenagers are my favorite age, by the way. Once you understand them and give them respect, they're a joy. So yeah, okay. These are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Okay, they're not always a joy, but you get what I mean. Okay, number 1 is listen to understand and show empathy. Don't gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? So you use these more than you use this. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. It's not a blanket statement, but it goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper. What do you want from me? You negotiate where you can. They just feel more respected. They feel more validated. They feel like you're listening to them. And that's going to get you more of what you want from them, is like respect, right? And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. A lot of parents make the mistake of trying to micromanage everything they do. And like, I'm smarter than you. You just listen to me. It's that patronizing stuff. They hate that. So if they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, I would have said, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And laugh it off, okay? Allow them to make mistakes. Allow your teenagers to not be perfect. You weren't. You're not. Why should they be? A lot of parents are very demanding of their kids. Okay. And I know the reason they do that is because they feel out of control. So then they just go the other way and they just expect too much. You know, it just becomes push, pull, push, pull. It's just a nightmare. So is it push, pull? Is it push, push? I don't know what it is. I don't even know why I use those sayings. I'm so awful at them. What did I say? I used to say it's hard to get the horse back in the barn once you've let him out. Or no, the horse has to go before the wagon. I always used to say the wagon goes before the horse. Don't know why I even try. Okay, so let me see here. By the way, I just want to thank you for your support here on Facebook. I think I started posting regularly. I think it was in December. So in the last 5 months, I've got like 184,000 followers. I didn't even know there was that many people on Facebook. Like, I'm never on social media, so I don't understand it. And I don't do my social media. But I just want to thank you for your support. It really does mean a lot to me. because I really feel like my message is strong, and it's just the more people I can get this message out to. And you don't have to hire me, or most people aren't going to hire me. But if you just keep watching these videos, you might start to understand all about leadership parenting. It's about giving respect to get it. Discipline is a tiny part of what I teach. It's more about connecting with your kids, showing them respect. Okay. So, and then they feel validated, they feel heard, they feel understood, and they're more likely to respect you. When you make your kids feel good about themselves, they're going to want to please you. That's sort of the way it goes. You ever been around someone who makes you feel like $1,000,000 about yourself? Are you just all over them? It's kind of like that. It's not about how they feel about you. It's how you make them feel about themselves. That could be said for anybody. People don't care if no one wants to be impressed. My mom used to say this. You know those know-it-alls who just are always talking about how great they are? Boring, boring. We all just want to have fun, right? If you're having fun with someone, isn't that a lot more fun than being impressed? Like, ooh, aren't you impressive? No one wants to be impressed. They just want to have fun, okay? And if you can make people feel good about themselves, and having fun with you is part of that, so then it's just winner, winner. I have a neurodivergent child who's 10. Do we do any special accommodations in discipline? I never know what neurodivergent means. I do and I don't, in that it's such a broad statement. So, and I worked with all those kids, ADHD, WXYZ, neurodivergent, autism, Down syndrome, and basically it's very similar with all those kids. It's about giving respect to get it. You deal with bad behavior, but then you focus on the good kid. You're always trying to bring out the good in them. You're not trying to stop the bad so much as you're trying to encourage the good, but you don't use praise. Just keep watching, it'll make sense. Praise is overused. It's just ridiculous. You never get good behavior with praise. And praise doesn't make kids feel good about themselves. Praise does nothing for them. You can argue that with me. You might have a little bit of a point, but I got a better one. Their love language is play, not praise. Parents tend to overpraise and underplay. You play with a kid, like you look at a 5-year-old kid and you say to him, you're wonderful, you're special, you're good looking, you're smart, you can do anything you want. Okay, I'm gonna go do the dishes now. This is him. Whereas if you say to him, hey, what are you doing? Can I play too? Watch the difference in his face. Which one brings out the best? Which one does something for him? Praise is so overrated. Parents do too much of that and they underplay. Praise is okay, but it makes you feel better than them. Really, it doesn't get good behavior at all. There's two things. Some of my clients are child psychologists, and I couldn't do their job, but they struggle with parenting because it's personal, it's different. But one thing they'll argue with me is that praise gets good behavior. I say, no, it doesn't. They say, yes, it does. I say, no, prove it. It doesn't. It doesn't get good behavior at all. Consequences do, and bringing out the good in them does, like in other words, focusing on the good kid. The other thing we argue about is tantrums. I always say you ignore tantrums before, during, and after. You never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. What's the point? And then they will argue with me that you have to validate their feelings, and I will argue back. You don't need to validate I'm not getting my own way feelings. No way. No way would I give that any attention. Where you put your focus, where you put your energy is what grows, okay? You don't want that to grow. You don't want tantrums to grow. You're fertilizing it. Any attention before, during, or after a tantrum is fertilizing it. Where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. Still have doubts regarding consequences. Okay. Still have doubts regarding consequences doing chores. So in other words, I often say with kids, it doesn't always have to be a chore, but it's just an easy thing to write on the behavior board. So if a child breaks a rule, they have to have a consequence. And I usually say, just do a chore, something like that. And so then this parent's saying, I still have doubts about this because my kids are used to doing chores a lot. So chores at home. So don't think it's a problem for them to do more stuff around the house. My kids are 7 and 9. What else can I do? It's like, okay. Yes and no. I see what you're saying. And a lot of parents say to me, you mean you want to make chores like a punishment? Yeah, what we're doing here, it's not so much a horrible, awful punishment. It's more you did something bad. Now you replace it with something good, a good deed. It doesn't matter if they hate it. And I'm sure your kids aren't using a toothbrush and cleaning out a windowsill. They could do that once, just one windowsill for like 5 minutes. An extra kind of a weird chore. I wouldn't have them detail your car, but just something that takes maybe 5 minutes. So yeah, there's always extra stuff. They could maybe clean your shoes. Just get like a rag. I clean my shoes all the time. Anyway, I'm a bit fussy. So yeah, talking about cleaning, I'm getting all excited here. So you could have them do something different. But yeah, it's just the fact that, hey, you chose to do something bad. Now you can replace it with a good deed. Don't get wrapped up in the consequences. It's kind of irrelevant. The thing is that you want to teach them that it's okay to do something bad so long as you replace it with something good. Like we're all going to make mistakes, but we want to be accountable for them. We want to make amends. We want to do something nice. But if they won't do that simple chore, then they get media blackout or something like that. So you start with a positive action consequence. If they won't do that, then you do the negative deprivation one, which is taking something they love and play with every day. You take it away for 24 hours, generally. Okay. Okay, I get this all the time. What do we do if 4 and a 6-year-old keeps acting up even after the second consequence, 24-hour immediate blackout, is in place? This happens all the time because it's a bit of a free pass for them. Hey, I'm already being punished anyway. It's like free reign to go crazy. Let that happen. At the very most, I might say, that's why you've got blackout. So when they do act out, just say, that's why you've got blackout. They'll eventually learn. None of this stuff's supposed to work overnight, except bedtime battles often does. But none of this stuff it's a slow burn. They're catching on. Everyone's trying to avoid the scene, but they keep doing it. Yeah, they're going to keep doing it for a while. It's not going to happen overnight. It's like dieting or anything that's worth it. Like a goal that you really want to attain. Is it going to happen overnight? No, it's small daily habits. And that's why we start with the behavior board. We have one in week 1. Then in week 2, we've got 2 behavior boards, 2 rules that you're dealing with. Then in week 3, we've got 3, and that's as far as we go. In the boot camp course, there's weeks 4 and 5, but they're not behavior boards. We go off the behavior board. Like, I would never use a behavior board. There's no way I want a kid looking at a behavior board. I want them looking right at me. But when you're learning how to do this, okay, you want that behavior board. It kind of buffers it. And when people hire me for coaching, I always say, just say, well, Lisa said to do that. Blame me. You know what's funny is kids often say, can you ask Lisa what she thinks about this? Teenagers especially, because they get pretty quick that I understand them, that actually what I'm doing is about respecting them. Even though they fight their parents on it, even young children start to understand that this is really just two-way respect. That's all this is. Everything I teach leadership parenting. You give respect to get it. You got to respect them. So often kids will say, can you check with Lisa and see if she agrees with what you just said or did? And I almost always agree with the kid or teenager, almost always. Isn't it interesting, eh? Parents struggle with this. Kids don't. They get it. They'll fight you back on it because they don't trust you yet. You're not a leader yet. You're working to get there. I worked my butt off to get where I am with kids. Like I worked 52 years. I volunteered with kids. I've been working with kids for 52 years. I was always kind of good at it though. Like that was sort of my thing. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. Like who does that? What a weird kid, eh? I just always had this incredible maternal thing. I had to mother stuff all the time. I remember I was about 2 and I had an earthworm I was trying to save. I put it in a blanket and tried to feed it, so it died anyway. I was so upset. Woke up the next day and it was shriveled up. But anyway, I was devastated. Had a burial for it and everything. Then I forgot about it. Well, obviously I didn't. That was 61 years ago. Still remember that. Isn't that funny? Because I thought I was mothering this little earthworm and I ended up killing it. So anyway, interesting. So anyway, I was volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11. And even then the daycare ladies were saying to me, how do you do that? The kids all like you, but they're really well behaved with you. They respect you. I didn't know how to answer that. But what I was doing was I was entering their world to connect with them and play with them. And then when I did lay down the law, they were very quick to listen because they liked themselves when they were with me. I was fun. So, and I wasn't fun when they were acting out. And they just connected the dots very fast. We started the behavior board 2 days ago. Going well, I hope. You did a thumbs up, so good. Thank you for your great advice. You know, I had someone, this poor person, I felt so bad for them. I do get emails from time to time. Can you teach me how to be a parenting coach? And I mean, you know, I can. I mean, I teach from 52 years of experience. I can't teach. And they said, how can I get your knowledge? And I didn't mean to be snotty, but I thought about it later on. And I said, well, put in 52 years of volunteering with kids and then we'll talk. What a snotty thing to say. But it's like as if you can just learn this overnight. Like that, I was kind of offended by it in a way. Can you teach me how to do this? You know, hopefully by the end of the year I'll be, and I'm like, I've put in all these decades figuring this stuff out. How on earth would someone else think they could pick it up that quick? Yeah, just struck me as funny. I was trying to be funny, but probably came across a little bit rude. But they They came back at me and said, "Oh, I appreciate your time." And then I felt bad. Buh, 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 buh. What do you do when an 8-year-old boy who doesn't like doing homework cries and flops on the floor? Well, I don't care if they flop on the floor. That's their business. But I would just say your homework has to be done between by 8 o'clock at night or by 7, whatever. Just set a time limit. Say it has to be done. I'll check it. If not, there's no TV tonight or no screens tonight. Or as soon as you can use the as soon as method. You don't even need the behavior board with this one. So I'll tell you what, as soon as you finish your homework, then you can play video games. It depends on how enticing that is for that kid. Okay, so 8-year-old boy, I'm assuming that would be pretty enticing. So yeah, that's the as soon as method, or you can put it on the board. And if they don't get it done, then there's a consequence. Yeah, the fact that they flop on the floor at 8 years old, that says to me it works. It's a tell. It means you must react to that. If a kid did that with me, I'd go, whatever. Like, alrighty then. Like, it wouldn't phase me at all. I'm like, whoa, that's embarrassing for you. I wouldn't say that. That's what I'd be thinking. Yeah. Does a teen depression associated with bad behavior and how to give consequences? Not usually. Oh, wait a minute. Not okay. I can't talk on that because I'm not a doctor, but I've worked with a lot of depressed teenagers, and because I specialize in teen crisis work. So, how do I answer that? But I'm not a doctor. That's a tough one. There's not always a correlation between the two. Sometimes the best behaved kid is often very silently depressed. So, but it's not a blanket statement. Okay. There are signs though. I knew a kid in school who did what you can imagine, and no one saw it coming. Super popular, good looking, great family, everything, and no one saw it coming. I know someone else I know, an adult, again, no one saw it coming. So you can't always predict what's going on in their head. And yeah, but there are some signs. And the thing is that people, it's just I've been doing this for so many years. I can, not always, I'm sure, but I can usually have an idea what's going on. But the problem is that with hindsight, a lot of people look back and think, oh, yeah. So do you do one-on-one with families? Yeah, I do coaching. That's how I started my business. So I started coaching 17 years ago, and I specialized in teen crisis work. And then I was doing the news one night, and I used to do a lot of news and stuff like that, radio and TV. And I was doing the news one night, and they introduced me as the crisis queen. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a queen, and I don't want to be known for crisis. Like I want to prevent that. So that's why I don't lead with that anymore. I'd rather prevent all that teen crisis stuff. But a lot of my clients are, going through a lot with their teenagers. So anyway, check out coaching. It's in the link above if you're interested, but I don't always have time to take people on. Just depends. Sometimes I like to mix up the ages too. I've got a lot of teenagers right now. Yeah, a lot. But what I do is I don't like to schedule all the teens on the same day. Like if I have, I don't know how many sessions a day, but if I have a lot of sessions, I'll make sure they're not all teen stuff because I have to think a lot harder when I'm, with little ones, I don't have to think much, but with the teenagers, I have to actually use my brain. And as I'm in my 60s, it's shriveling up. It's probably the size of a pea by now. Okay, Lisa, how can I stop my 4-year-old sucking his thumb, please? That's just one of those habits, and it's not something you want to stop. It's something you want to redirect and replace with something else. Okay, we never stop bad habits with kids. So I suggest trying those. If you even look online, you look up stress toys, or you can get the poppers. There's all sorts of little things that it's just like clicking a pen. It's one of those kind of things. It's like a stress ball, squeezing it. You can buy them. They're like kits, and you'll get like 10 or 12 of these little toys and in a little kit, and it's all these little stress like silicone things that they can squeeze. So you say, every time you want to suck your thumb, do this instead. So you're redirecting it. Whenever they have a habit like that, I don't agree with, well, the bitters never works, by the way. I don't agree with trying to stop it. I agree with you trying to redirect it. So you're making them aware of it, but it's not bad behavior. It's just a bad habit. So you say, okay, do this instead. Okay, remember, do that instead. You can have a code word. Yeah, so you can say stress ball or something, whatever. So yeah, check that out. Remember, you're not trying to stop those habits. You're trying to redirect them. I know I had a client a while ago, and this kid had a really bad habit with something. and all the psychiatrists, and they'd had this kid assessed and all that, and they all said, you've got to ignore that habit. I could not disagree more. And yeah, I disagree with that. You don't ignore that stuff. Um, how do we get in contact with you? If you're just asking parenting questions, generally, this is where I do that. If you want to hire me for coaching, check out coaching first and let me know. Check out the price, how it works, all that stuff. And then if you're really interested, you have to send me an email. It's all in the link above. You'll see it all up there. Send me an email. Tell me how old your kids are, what your challenges are, and then I'll see if I can slot you in. You know, people come and go. Like I finish up with clients all the time, and then I'll get new clients come in. And it also depends what else is going on in my business, because I'm not just coaching. I've got other stuff I'm doing too. So yeah, but I don't answer parenting questions on email. I can't. I've got I've got 1.2 million followers now in social media. If I answered all the parenting questions that just pop up in my email, yeah, that's all I'd be doing. Well, I couldn't even do them all. So yeah, I don't do that. This is where I do all my free Q&As. Okay, I can't say that word you talked about, your 10-year-old father, my 10-year-old's father. Yeah, I can't say that. And I don't want to go down that path on here. I like to keep it a little bit lighter. So sorry about that. How do you get a preteen to understand fighting with younger siblings is not okay? Just put no hurting people. That is the rule on the behavior board. Check out the behavior board. It's in the link above, and it's completely free. Or you might want to check out, a preteen would be 9 to 12. So you might want to check out the boot camp course. That's all about setting yourself up as a leader. And that kind of stuff, when you're a leader, that stuff just sort of doesn't happen. But it teaches you leadership over 5 weeks. That's how that goes. Oh, you asked about your grandchild. I don't give grandparenting advice. No, at all. I only give parenting advice. Because if I said something plus I don't want anyone else lecturing people on how they parent. And if I told you something, then they didn't like it. You see what I mean? I don't do that. I only teach parenting. I stay in my lane. Okay. That's a good question. I just found you today and loved it. Thank you. Mentioned attitude issues versus actions. Yeah. Can you talk more about that more? How you address bad attitude? You don't address attitude. The attitude is an organic thing. It happens naturally when you become a leader. It's very rare that I will address attitude in coaching. I only do it in coaching, and it's quite rare. And it'll only pop up in week 4, maybe. You got to get some of this stuff under your belt first. You have to sort of understand leadership before you can even begin to deal with attitude. And even then, it's rare that I'll do it. But the only way I'll do it is if the parent is also got a bad attitude. It's like if you I can't roll my eyes, you can't roll your eyes either. So you see, and then they end up rolling their eyes at each other. And so yeah, but it's kind of hard to do. It's kind of complicated. Attitude, you know what it's like saying? It's like saying if you and your spouse are having a fight and your spouse says to you, calm down, how would you react? They're trying to deal with your attitude, right? Yeah, we don't deal with attitude. Yeah, it just sort of happens organically. You've been such a blessing. That's very sweet. Thank you. One of the biggest compliments I ever got on here, it was someone who just attacking me, right? I get lots of that. I don't look at my comments or messages online. I don't have time, social media. And so evidently my daughter does all my social media, and every so often she'll go through the messages and that. And we just don't have time to go through all that. And people have to understand, I've got a bigger audience now. And yeah, I've got courses, and you can email me if you want to do coaching. You know what I'm saying? I just can't do that stuff anymore. But anyway, someone wrote this horrible, awful thing about me. They just went on and on about how stupid I was. And they said, and who the hell does this 40-year-old woman think she knows what she's talking about? Well, I'm in my 60s. So I wrote back and I said, I'm 63, but thank you. Oh, they didn't like that at all. It was great. I rarely ever answer anything, but my daughter said, you'll want to look at this one. So yeah, it was great. And I love all that negative stuff. You know why? Because I'm shaking things up. And I'm happy about that. I'm not on here just to sort of sell my wares. I'm on here to make a difference. I want you to enjoy parenting as much as I did. It was the most fun period of my whole life. I miss it. I really do. My kids are 34. I'm a grandmother now. My daughter's 20, they're 34 and 29. I miss that. I miss getting up in the morning. I miss putting them to bed. I miss driving them to school. The most happy day of my whole day was picking them up at school. I miss all that. I want you guys to enjoy it as much as I did. All I did was get that mutual respect going, and we had a blast. I got them self-disciplined, so they understood when they made a poor choice, then they had to be accountable for it, and they ended up just disciplining themselves. Piece of cake, and then they just ended up making good choices. Yeah, that's what I teach. I want you to enjoy parenting. I'm not on here to make you help you raise great kids. That's sort of, yeah, I guess, but it's more about, I want you to have a happy family. That's always what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking, oh, I want these perfect children. That's not what I'm thinking. Thinking, I want you to enjoy your family. I want you to all respect each other and enjoy each other's company. That's my goal. And you can't do that if your kids are being difficult, right? But you're on that behavior board too, right? That's what makes this all work. Oh, just panicked for a second. I'm always worried I'm going to be late for the next live because I go from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, right? And I'm on YouTube the whole time. So I sit on YouTube for an hour and a half, and then I go from Facebook for a half hour, Instagram, and then TikTok. TikTok's my biggest platform, and then Instagram, and then, but actually, yeah, Facebook's doing really well. I didn't expect that. I had no idea how Facebook was going to go. Any suggestions for a teacher? Oh, no, I don't. I don't teach teaching. A huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, daycare workers, and child psychologists. I couldn't do their jobs at all. And they struggle with parenting because a lot of stuff doesn't cross over, right? It just doesn't. Parenting is personal. It's different. Where can I get behavior board? In the link above, and it takes 20 to 30 minutes to arrive. So once you've signed up, it's just an attachment at the bottom of the newsletter. A lot of people send me emails. I didn't get my behavior board. I ignore them all because I assume they just haven't waited the 20 minutes. So yeah, give it a bit. And also two most common things that people email me. I didn't get the board. One of them is they put their email in wrong. So sign up again, make sure you got the right email. And the other one is that they just didn't wait long enough. So that's why I don't answer it usually when people say they didn't get the behavior board. Sorry, YouTube. It just ended on Facebook and it's never done that before. It literally the live ended itself. I'm just going to see if anyone turns up if I go on again. Darn it. Hate that. It's glitching. But I didn't lose you on YouTube, so it's not the internet. So Facebook just would have blipped out. Okay. I just came back on because, I just came back on to tell you that Facebook cut me off. I don't know why. Facebook just cut the live. It's never done that before. But I'm moving over to Instagram now. So if you want to join me on Instagram, you can go over there. If not, happy parenting and go in the link above. You've got everything. All my courses and everything is up in the link. So happy parenting. Bye now. I'm going over to Instagram now. Okay. Post for 30 days. Been having a lot of glitches lately. And people are I'm talking to you, YouTube, sorry. Just unloading all this on you. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of people trying to hack my accounts lately too. Because as you get bigger, people not in YouTube, I'm small in there, but the other ones I'm not. Okay, so YouTube, I'm just waiting for Instagram people to turn up. It takes about 10 seconds and then they'll turn up pretty quick. But in the meantime, I'm going to answer YouTube. Do you have any tips on parenting, fighting, and arguing between my kids? I try to arrange activities to build teamwork. I'm a dad of 6 boys ranging from 5 to 15. Sorry, you'd have to hire me for that. That's systems. If you've got a large family, how many kids? 6 boys, you'd have to hire me. I have to have systems. There's no easy answer to that. There's no quick live answer for that. You'd have to hire me. Yeah, so look into coaching if you're really interested. Or keep watching, you might get some tips. But yeah, It's too complicated for here. Hi, I'm a mom of 11 and my 10 girls and one boy. Every day I have to buy all the girls at least one new Sephora product so that they talk to me. Boys get 11. My boys get 11 new car. Okay. Do you have any tips? Stop buying them stuff. That's my tip. Stop buying them stuff. If you want to learn how to connect with your kids, how old are they? 10 girls. I don't know how old they are, but I do have a boot camp course if you're interested. Just stop buying them stuff. You can't buy love. You know, they're blackmailing you. So yeah, there's no way I would do that. No way. Okay. Any tips, adjustments for using behavior board with little ones? I have 4, and okay, it starts at the age of 3. Any tips for using behavior board with little ones? You can't use the behavior board under the age of 3. It takes this cognitive ability to stop and think before they act, and they can't do that until they're 3. Some of them might be a bit earlier, but 3, they can all learn to do that. That's why between 9 and 22, yeah, you'd have to hire me. If you really want my help, you'd have to hire me, but I don't think you need to hire me. Just stop buying them stuff. I had a client, I can't say what it was. It was a funny, but anyway, this client was convinced that this child needed a brand new toy every single day. I won't tell you why, but this kid was holding it over on them. They were holding something in, if you get my drift. They would not go until they got a new toy every single day. And the parent was convinced it was a medical issue. Well, we sorted that out pretty quick, I'll tell you. It was funny. Okay. How often should you be actively playing with your kids during the day, 1 and 3-year-olds? Nobody knows. That's like saying how much time per week should they be on screens? Nobody really knows. If you got a happy family, then you're doing enough with them. I was always talking to my kids, and I don't like playrooms. I wanted my kids around me. I've known people who've actually built playrooms that are separate, away from anybody. And I'm like, you really don't want to be around your kids, do you? My kids are always around me. So I wasn't even always actively playing with them, but they were always right there. And I was often talking about what they were doing. And so, yeah, that's sometimes all you have to do. And there's no set amount of time. But I did get on the floor a lot and play in their world. And I remember when I wanted a nap and my son was a baby, I would lay on the floor, literally in the living room. I would lay on the floor and he would put his train set and all that over top of me. He was like 1 and 2 when he was doing this. And he'd put his train set and I'd be the mountain. And he'd play cars on me. And because I was having a nap, I was tired, right? So he'd be playing cars on top of me. And then I would wake up if he stopped. If I didn't feel the cars on me, I'd wake up. So I could have like a 2-hour nap. That was great. And as far as he was concerned, we were playing together. I was snoring, but yeah, he didn't know. Okay. I will start boot camp after he turns 3 next week. No, that's not too early. You know, a month ahead's fine. 2.5-year-old gets frustrated, screams and yells when he can't figure something out. Yeah, I kind of ignore that stuff. I say, oh, well, let's put it away. I don't give in to that. If they start screaming and yelling, that's not a tantrum, but it's sort of a loss of control at things not going their own way, which is sort of similar to a tantrum. So yeah, I don't tend to feed that. I don't tend to say, here's how you do it. I don't tend to do that. I will show when they've calmed down, then I might show them how to do it, but not when they're screaming. I say, okay, we'll put that away then. I'm a little bit tough with stuff like that. And then they kind of learn that, you know, it's not going to work with me. It's sort of like, if you feed that and you kind of go over there and to show them how it's done right away, it doesn't calm them down anyway. Or does it? Doesn't usually. That's more my style. I don't talk a lot about stuff that I don't think would work with everybody. That's more my style. Not necessarily the only advice that you need to hear, but it's what I would do. It's one of those things. Yeah, I go, oh, well, didn't work. We'll put it away. And then I might hand them something different to play with. But I wouldn't feed into that screaming and stuff, right? Kids learn pretty quick which parent they can get to, you know, come running when they do something like that. 5-year-old best thing to learn how to read besides books? I don't know. How do you learn to read without a book? I don't know what you mean by that. I do this. Haha. Thanks so much. Was that the one where yeah. Okay. Um, a few suggestions for a newly 3-year-old to do something positive for his baby brother he likes to hit, apart from giving a favorite toy. I know what you're doing. I don't do that. Yeah. Um, I don't want to go on about it, but yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would just say no hitting when he does as a consequence. That is the example on my behavior board. The behavior board's completely free. I don't want to get into the psychology of what you're doing and why I wouldn't do it. If it's working, keep doing it, but I don't do that. Um, do I want to get into it? Because I can feel it coming on. It's a big spiel. Yeah, just put no hitting on the behavior board, and there's a consequence if he does. Is it realistic to expect a 16-month-old to listen? Nope, not at all. Completely unrealistic. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, this is under the age of 3, you do so by entering their world. You don't take them to the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They look at you differently when you do that. Number 4 is stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining them. No discussing big feelings, big emotions. That was all stuff that's just garbage. It was invented to make the mom feel good about herself. Has nothing to do with the toddler. It's useless. They're about consistent corrective actions. They're not about words. They're about actions. And they might be listening to you and parroting what you're saying, but there's nothing staying in there. Nothing. Okay, and that's a mom say, oh, he said he agreed with me, and okay, whatever. It's just ridiculous. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around down there. Okay, they're cute as a button, but they're just all feet, no brains. Okay, and they're just going to do stupid stuff. They might go like this and smear poop on the wall. To a toddler, that might make perfect sense. I always say they're crazy. It's just that they haven't developed sane yet. They haven't developed common sense yet. That kicks in around 25 years old. Anyway, okay. What ages is your program for? Well, if you look it up, I have some toddler courses. They're just my little mini toddler courses. Then I have my big boot camp course. That's the one that's all, it teaches you how to give respect to get it. It teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. But that's 3 to 12 years old. Yeah. And then coaching, 13 and over is coaching. Sometimes that behavior board, you can use the behavior board, which is completely free. You can use that with all ages. I have clients who've taken it to work and used it with their staff because the boss is on it too, right? So, yeah. They kind of use it with tongue in cheek, like having fun with it, but it points things out. Like if someone's late, they can't turn up without, they have to buy, at coffee break, they have to go and get donuts for everybody, stuff like that. Or if they're more than 10 minutes late, they have to get donuts and extra stuff or whatever. They use it, but they're still making their point. So it's just an accountability chart. That's all it is. And I do specialize in teenagers, but I only go up to really 18. The oldest I ever took on was a 25-year-old. They were living at home, and they just were so complete. They weren't even working. They were living at home, not working, and their parents were giving them allowance. They were 25 years old. So yeah, that one took a while. The older they get, the harder it is to reel stuff in. But anyway, that's very rare. The only reason I did that was they were just still a child in a lot of ways, and the parents were at their wits' end. So, but yeah, it goes up to 18 usually. They have to still live at home, and they have to be at least somewhat financially dependent upon you, because you need leverage, right? Yeah, my 5-year-old started panicking about dying because he just lost a grandparent. I lost grandparents before I was 10. I lost all my grandparents, and it scared me. Then I lost my dad when I was 14, so I had a lot of fear of my mom dying. And but my mom always said to me, she goes, sweetie, you're not going to enjoy life if you're worrying about death. She goes, everybody dies eventually, but the odds are I'm going to be around for another 50 years. But things happen. The chances are of me dying now after your dad did, that's pretty slim to none. So, she always sort of said, yeah, it's going to happen one day. She never said, oh, I'll never die. But she just sort of said, you can't worry about what's the bad stuff. It's going to ruin the good stuff. So, but it's just something they'll get over. It takes time. Death is I remember being a kid and my granny died. She grew up next, she lived next to us. So I was very close to her. I couldn't understand it. Yeah, it's so confusing. Would you do anything different with kids ADHD? Those are all the kids I learned this with. So no, that's where I learned this. They're still human beings. I mean, everyone talks about it like they're just a whole other, like an alien or something. It's all the same. It's just with kids with autism or any other special needs or anything. They can be different. But ADHD, WXYZ, generally no, it doesn't matter. And ODD is not a medical diagnosis. The ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, doctors have told me they made it up just to make moms feel better. Has nothing to do, so they can blame the kid and not themselves. In other words, they absolve the mother of any responsibility for parenting. Is that the dumbest thing? Anyway, well, it's not the dumbest thing, but I don't like it. And a lot of people use that as their ticket out. Like they say, well, oh, he's got ADHD. Oh, well, he's got ODD. Oh, well, he's got, this and that. You still can be a leader with those kids. It's just more work, right? A lot of parents want to blame their kids for what they're doing. But really what you're doing is you're saying it's not my fault. You'd rather blame your kids than yourself. I always say to those parents when they hire me, I say, who do you love more, you or your kid? Like, come on. When I was working with kids, if they acted out under my care, when I was mentoring them or whatever, I always went like this. I thought, what am I doing wrong? What am I missing here? I never blamed them. Adults, parents, mentors look to themselves. They take responsibility for kids. So yeah, don't use that as an excuse. It's just more work. And do you think I ever worked with an easy? My kids were easy, but I got respect when they were little. But all those kids I worked with, do you think anyone ever said to me, ever in decades of working with kids, do you think anyone ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa? Because I was a behavior mentor. Could you imagine? Here's an easy one. Why would they hand me an easy kid? It was always like, good luck with this one. So those are all the kids that taught me this. I didn't learn much with my own kids. It was all the other kids I worked with. Always blame myself. Always. You take people say, oh, well, you're making us feel bad. Yeah, if that's what it takes, take responsibility for how your children are acting because you can't change them anyway. We're not fixing kids here. We're teaching parents. Take responsibility. I've worked with hundreds of kids. I managed to get respect with all of them. Did I just get them on a good day? No. I set myself up as a leader. I worked my butt off to get that respect. I earned it. It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. You got to work for it. That's what I teach you how to do. You got to work for it. You got to earn it. You got to prove yourself. To hire you to do FaceTimes to explain the dynamic in the house and such. To hire you, do you do FaceTimes? Oh, coaching. Yeah, I do coaching. But you might just need the boot camp course. That's just how to be a leader. That's 5 weeks. It's an online course. Check that out. And I just finished all my Zoom sessions. People are asking how you get in on those Zooms. They're all done. They're finished. That was just a one-off. I did 6 weeks of Zooms every Saturday afternoon with the boot camp course because I wanted their feedback. The course is almost a year old now. I wanted the feedback. Also, I wanted to put those videos on the course. They all knew they were going on the course. And it was just great. It was this wonderful community. It made me think, geez, I want to get something out there where I got other group coaching sessions somehow because I want you to see each other. You're not the only one suffering and struggling through stuff. You should see all these wonderful, beautiful, wealthy, successful, funny, smart parents just going through hell with their kids. Do you know how many parents have said to me, I love my kids, but I wish I'd never had them? Crying when they say it. And these are educated heads of corporations, doctors, lawyers, child psychologists, teachers, everybody. Anyone can be hit with the regret with having the kid that they got. Okay, it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you're at your wit's end. I get this a lot in coaching, okay? And they always expect me to go, ooh, and I'm just like, yeah, I've heard that before. Okay, let's get to work. Okay. So how do you handle media blackout when you have several sorry, I just panicked. I thought I was running late for something. How do you do a media blackout when you have several kids with one TV? Okay, this is easy. What you do, if you only have one TV, you got to move the TV or just have a small screen or a computer. And the kids that can have media go in your master bedroom and they have a smaller screen. That's how the whole family suffers a little bit through media blackout. The one kid that does have media blackout has the run of the house except that master bedroom. Those other kids are quite happy. They have a smaller screen because that one sibling doesn't get any. So they're usually quite happy. They never complain. What they usually end up doing is turning it off and coming out, and I'll tell you why. Because when your kid has media blackout, you do it with them. There's no way that I would be on my phone like this when a kid has media blackout. Oh, this is wonderful. Like, you're not in your phone. You are not watching TV, nothing. You're doing it with them. You don't tell them that ahead of time. It's just when they got media blackout, say, hey, I'm going to do it with you. Do you want to play a game? No, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, never mind. When they calm down an hour later, you ready for that game now? I don't care if they ever play a game with you. But sometimes, especially when they're younger, they usually will. Then the other kids hear you having fun with that kid who has media blackout. They turn off the media and they come out and play too. That happens more often than you would even think. So yeah, you do it with them. That's your time to bond with them, to connect with them. Just because they've got media blackout, they're not in the doghouse. That's your opportunity with no screens or anything. Play with them, bond with them, show them you still love them. You don't have to juggle and play the whole time, but try and get some fun time in with them. And you always come back like this. You want to play a game? No, I hate you. Okay, never mind. And then wait, and then always come back at them. You're like that loser always trying to play with the kid. You ready for that game now? You're always trying to connect. Even if they never play, you're still showing them that you want to play with them. That gets in there. They're listening. They're watching. Any tips, adjustments for using behavior board with little ones, 4 and 3? It starts at 3. I've heard you say you would do a few things differently. Depends. Certain things I do. Usually at 5, a lot of stuff starts a little bit differently. Like if they're under 5, I might do some reminders. Like let's say you're doing mealtime routine. If they're 5 and over, I wouldn't remind them of what they're supposed to do. But if they're under 5, I might remind them, say, remember your bum can't come out of that chair during dinner. So I might remind them when they're little. But yeah, I'm sure there are other things too, but that's just the first thing that came to my mind. Someone reminds me of a while ago, someone was on a live or so, I don't remember where it was. Anyway, and they said, well, you contradicted yourself because you said blah, blah, blah. I said, in a million years, I would never have said that. I think they said I said, well, I love timeout. They would have been listening to someone else. I hate timeout. I can't stand it. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. I said, in a million years, I would never have said to use timeout. So yeah, I don't think they'll ever watch me again. I'm pretty consistent. But coaching, I have to make exceptions, especially when I'm dealing with people around the world, because there are different cultures. And in some cultures, the husband, the man, the father will not be on that behavior board. He said the man of the house cannot be accountable. So I have to respect that. I'm not an idiot. I teach my North American and Australian, where I raise my kids in Australia. I teach that culture. Basically, it's based on that culture. But I have to adjust a lot of stuff when I'm talking to other cultures. Like I respect that. The man's the head of the house. He will not be he will not be accountable. But I have to work around that too. I make sure that he sort of is, but in a roundabout way. So yeah, there are some exceptions, but generally I'm pretty consistent with my advice. Someone asked how I do that. How do I deal with that? I love that because for one thing, I don't think there's one way to do anything in this world. I have a very open mind. I mean, not with parenting, because I teach what I know, right? So, but there's probably other great parenting ways out there too. But I know my way. I know what's worked with me for 50 plus years with kids. So I teach from my own personal experience, but it doesn't mean I think that I know everything. I know everything about my leadership stuff I teach because I invented it, right? So, but yeah, I find it fascinating. You know what I love about other cultures? They have, a lot of them have multi-generational households. So they might have grandparents living with them. They might have their brothers and sisters and their kids living with them. They have all these big family homes. They're like compounds almost. And I have to respect the fact that the elders might do different discipline methods with the kids. Do I have to work with them? I just find it fascinating. I learn a lot about the world this way. And what I love about that, though, is what tight family community bonds they have. That's something we're missing out on in North America. We don't have that as much. And, I think we could learn from other cultures too. Okay. I'm going to start to read this and then I'll let everybody else. Can I get advice on a 14-year-old who is into blah, blah, blah? I don't want to talk about that, but I'll tell you a funny story. Or should I tell it on here? No, No, I don't want to address that at all on here. I did a TED Talk about 10 years ago. And I talked about stuff like that. It was quite funny. I knew they were going to pick that because they asked me to do a TED talk. I'll tell you funny. They thought I was going to be the strongest speaker, and I'll tell you what happened. It was quite embarrassing. Um, anyway, so I gave them a few things that I was going to talk. That I said, here's some options. Of course, they chose the one that was all about sex and that. And so anyway, they thought I was going to be the strongest speaker. So they put me on the anchor, right? They put me last. Because I used to do a lot of news and that. So I guess they thought I was going to be the strongest speaker. But right before me went a professor. Now, this was to a university that it was all students that were in the audience, or mostly. So right before me, a professor went on there. He got up on the stage and he tore up his own diploma. I thought, I am toast. How am I gonna? They all standing ovation. They all just loved him. So backstage, they all looked at me with pity, and they went like this. They went, "Good luck." Oh, that's funny. But backstage, we were just going, "Oh no! Oh, he should have been last. He had that. They should have known the audience, right?" I don't think they knew what he was going to do though. And he was very good too. He didn't just do that. He was very good. Not say mean things because they hurt. You're going to say that to a kid? They don't care if it hurts. That's why they say it. They want to hurt. So why are you saying because they hurt? They already understand that. Just say, don't say, you can say, no name calling or bad words, and then have a consequence. Don't say because they hurt. You're going the extra mile. The fewer words, the better. Silence is golden with stuff like this. Just say what you need to say. No bad words or no name calling. And then, and then there's a consequence. Because a lot of parents say, that hurts me when you do that. And the kid's like, I don't care. That's why I did it. Like you're stating the obvious. Don't hit me because it hurts. Good. That's what I was trying to do. You see what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're just validating that it's working. Okay, you asked about so media blackout wouldn't work with you. I get this a lot in coaching. So some parents have no screens at all. So you just take something away that they love, something that they play with every single day. I don't like to use food, but sometimes I do. Like, let's say they're used to having ice cream or yogurt after dinner, or yogurt's healthy or whatever. But let's say they're used to having a treat after dinner. Just take that away if you have to. I don't like using food, but if that's all you got to have some leverage. You got to take something away that they use and like every single day. So. But you never take away something comforting, like something that they sleep with, like a plushie or something that they love. So you don't take away love, but it's just something like it's usually something, not people. You don't take away a play date or something. Like a client was saying, "Oh, I had a really good one. They had a play date, and I said, that's it. They canceled the play date." You don't do that. That's taking away social stuff and love and healthy stuff. You don't take away healthy, social, fun, love, and all that. You don't take away that. It was one of those, and this happens quite often. I always feel kind of bad about this, but I have no tact anyway. And the parents will turn up all proud of themselves, and then I knock it down. Sorry, but yeah, you can't do that. And they're like, oh, they're so proud to tell me of what they've done. And like, yeah, no, you can't do that. And then I laugh at how tactless I am. So I don't have a filter. I kind of, no, I don't really. I don't care. I'm past that. But I don't really have a filter because I'm here to get your results. I'm going to say whatever I need to say to get the results I want for you. So, and I don't care, like being liked means nothing to me. I'm here to get you results. And yeah, saying what I'm thinking, just sometimes stuff just flies out of my face. I start ignoring tantrums of my 4-year-old, and after a while he yells, "Mommy, why aren't you talking to me? Would you keep ignoring or say I'll talk to you after you calm down?" You can say ahead, he's 4. So you can say ahead of time, if you're having a tantrum, I will not be talking to you. So you can tell him that ahead of time. Then when he says, "Why aren't you talking to me?" you just ignore it. Completely ignore it. You've already said it. It's a manipulative tactic. He knows why you're doing it, by the way. He knows exactly why you're doing it. "Why aren't you talking to me?" In other words, "Oh, I'm in pain here. What? You don't love me. I hate me. I wish I wasn't here." Yeah, they'll try anything to get you. He's 4. He knows what he's doing. So you can tell him ahead of time, if you're having a tantrum, I won't be talking to you. So then if he asks that, it's just pure manipulation. How to get a 16-month-old to understand that adult food is not always good for him? You don't. That's still like a baby. They just can't have it. I don't know what you mean. You can't get them to understand that. How do I get that across? Your expectations of a 16-month-old are here. Here's their ability. Close the gap. But you got to come down. They're not going to come up. Yeah. Son is 2. How can I get him to listen? You don't. You don't get a 2-year-old to listen to you. Okay. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. You manage the environment, manage yourself, and they'll eventually respect you. But the 2-year-olds are just nuts anyway. Okay, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Childproof your home so you never have to say no. Set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Enter their world to connect with them. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. You enter their world. It's the same with discipline. When you want to discipline a toddler, you enter their world. They're not about words. They're about actions. So you use consistent corrective actions to correct bad behavior. You don't use words. They're not listening at all. They're watching you. They're not listening. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're just forming. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like, come on. You got a 16-month-old who doesn't understand nutritional value? I mean, come on. That's too young. There's a lot of adults who don't understand that. I remember I'm radical with health, and I was talking to this woman just in a cafe one day, and she asked how I'm pretty fit, and she asked me, because we got talking about age, and I'm like 15 years older than she is. And so she goes, well, how do you do that? And I said, well, I said, it's just choice. It's not that you should be this way, but I'm a gluten-free health food vegan, right? So I eat really, really healthy. And then she goes, but what do you do on cheat days? And I said, I don't do cheat days. This is a lifestyle, not a diet. I said, it's the way I live. And she just said, but you got to have a cheat day. Like, it just was this, couldn't fathom that you don't have cheat days. She just couldn't fathom that. So if she couldn't figure it out, and she was like 50, you think a 16-month-old's going to understand? I was so confused, and so was she. Cheat day? If that's my lifestyle, you don't want to cheat. I'm happy with the way I live. Oops. Okay. I'm going to move over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I don't have time to take everyone on with coaching these days, but you can look into it first. Don't just ask me about it. Look into it first and make sure that you want it. But I always try and steer people to the boot camp course. If you have 3 and 12-year-olds, it's general. But if you're dealing with crisis, PTSD, all sorts of challenging things, or teenagers, that would be more coaching. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me. I'm on YouTube the whole time. That's where all my lives are saved. And now I'm hopping over to TikTok. So thanks for joining me. Happy parenting. Bye now. TikTok starts an ad now. It's frustrating. They didn't used to. Come on, jeez. Okay. Let me see. My daughter, 14, is never on time, and when being disciplined, she just stares and then recently said she doesn't change because she doesn't care. I tell her it's hard being around her, but she doesn't stop. You think that's going to help? Telling her it's hard to be around her? She's probably going to say it's hard to be around you too. Yeah, well, don't say that. That's mean. You don't say that. I'm not saying it's not true, but don't say that. That's not the way you do it. You want to connect with a teenager. I'm going to read my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. They're my favorite age, by the way. But yeah, you just insulted her big time. It's hard to be around you. You're so difficult. You're just not even worth being around. That's what you just said to her. This is a YouTube question. Okay, these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. And by the way, with teenagers, it's give, get, give, get. You got to be the bigger person. When you get really close to them, it's more give and get, right? But yeah. Okay, these are my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number one, listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They're just going to shut you out. Okay. You get really good at what I call silent listening, and they'll just start telling you everything, just like I told my mom and like my kids told me, right through the teen years. Number two is you negotiate pretty much everything. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Let's start the negotiations. And then number three is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Don't micromanage them. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And laugh it off. It's okay to make mistakes and not be perfect, just like you. Okay? But yeah, a lot of parents just say mean things to their teenagers without realizing it. But what you said to her is just going to tank, guaranteed. It would be, could you imagine saying that to an adult? You're really hard to be around. Think about it. Would that if someone said that to you, would you be nicer to them, or would you tell them to hit the road? I'm saying that very politely. Do you go back and discuss what they could have done better instead after bad behavior? God, no. Oh, no. They already know. No. You don't harp on it. You know what you should have done instead? You're still, okay. You deal with bad behavior, then you focus on the good kid. Just talk about happy stuff. And also, I wrote something down. I thought, why didn't I write this down before? I wrote down, and there's a big meaning behind this. I wrote down, don't leverage the good times to talk about the bad times, and which is what you're doing. Don't leverage good times to talk about the bad times. A lot of parents make this huge mistake, and they can't figure out why their kids won't talk to them. So you know how a teenager starts to open up to you and just starts to tell you stuff, and then you just dive in for the kill. How come you've been so rude to me lately? Can you treat me with more respect? They just dive in because they think the door's been opened. It'll slam shut like that if you do that. Do not leverage the good times to talk about the bad. You just say, yeah, this is great. This is great. Okay, I'm going to go make dinner now. You're dying to talk about all the stuff you really want to talk about, but do not leverage the good times to get to the bad times, to talk about the bad stuff. Parents do it all the time with teenagers, all the time. Huge mistake. You know what's interesting is when a lot of my clients have teenagers, that's my specialty is teen years. A lot of those teenagers will say to their parents, the parents will do something or say something to them, and they'll say, can you ask Lisa if she thinks you should have said or done that? Because they pick up on the fact, I know them, I get them. I never meet them, but they pick up on the fact pretty quickly that I know what teenagers are all about, right? So then they'll ask their parents. I would say 99.99999% of the time, I agree with the teenager. And I go, you're right, you shouldn't have said, they're completely right. You shouldn't have said that. That was mean. So you have to make amends now. You have to apologize to them and make amends. So yeah. The way you speak about parenting makes my little kid teenager self feel so much relief and respect. It's funny. But if you just think about it, like everything I'm saying is just common sense. There's nothing, I'm not that bright. Like I'm not a genius by any means. Not that you don't already know that, but it's just me. I've got a lot of experience and it just makes perfect sense. You think about how you want to be treated. Do you really want to talk about if you did something stupid? Do you really want it to be discussed in great length later on? You already know. You've already made amends. You've already made it up to them and done something, right? Do you really need to discuss it? Parents just want to harp on the bad stuff for some reason. It's for them. It's not for their kids. It's for them. It makes them feel better to just harp on it because they're mad, right? Usually comes from a place of anger. I always tell my daughter, if you give me good grades, I give a surprise. Bribery with grades. There's better ways. I don't know how old she is and your dynamic. I don't know. I wouldn't. That's not something I would think to do. I don't know what's going on there. I haven't got enough context around that to really give a fair assessment. How can we watch your TED Talk? It's called, what's it called? I'll find it. By the way, I was going through menopause. I was 40 pounds heavier there. So I watched it a couple of years ago. I thought, whew, I was big. Okay, TED. Just a sec, I'll find it. I can't remember what it's called. Okay, this is my TED Talk, and I can't remember what it was called. Oh, it's called The Unsexy Truth, the Hookup Culture. Just look up Lisa Bunnage TEDx. So my name, Lisa Bunnage TEDx. Yeah, I was 40 pounds heavier. That was about 10 years ago. I was going through menopause. Whoa, I was big. Whoo, whoo. It's funny because I didn't realize I was. Yeah. Anyway, after menopause, the weight fell off. And it's funny because when I'm doing weights at the gym, I was doing the farmer's carry, 20 pounds in each hand. And I thought, oh, this is brutal. I was walking around the gym with this 40 pounds. And then it dawned on me, I weighed 40 pounds more just like 7 years ago. That 40 pounds, God, it feels so much heavier when you're hanging on to it. You get used to it. I'm not saying that it was awful. I didn't mind it. It just, I didn't expect it to fall off after menopause. It's not common sense for everyone what you teach. I learned so much. Okay, it's just common sense when I explain it. People always say, "Oh, right, I see." That's what I mean by that. But it's just my experience that it comes to me easily. But when I explain it, people go, "Oh, right, 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 right." That's what I mean. It's not like it's convoluted. Like today, I had a client, and oh no, it's too long of a story. Never mind. But it was a really good point. The dad picked up on something, and he goes, "Yeah, I get that." It was really interesting. But yeah, it is common sense, but it doesn't mean you're going to come up with it because you just don't have the experience with it, right? That's all. I'm sure you're a lot better at a lot of stuff than I am. I often tell this in coaching. I won't bother going into it, but there's something I really hate doing, and I have a real phobia about it. And it's something important in life. And I spent a whole weekend doing it, something I had to do. So all I did was overeat, nap, and cry for 2 days. And at the end of it, I got it all done. I'll give you a time. It's that time of the year that you have to do this. It's just a big fear of mine. It's taxes. I hate it. I haven't. Oh, I just broke it out in sweat. I built up a phobia around taxes. I've never had a problem with them. I've never not got them in. I've never been fined. Nothing's ever. There's no reason for it. I just have this phobia about it. So anyway, I went through a whole weekend of just sheer hell, finishing it all up. My accountant, I had a lawyer I was talking to. Oh my God. I had to make decisions. And yeah, I've got people helping me, but I had to make decisions. Anyway, so I finished, and my daughter and I were just cracking up. Like just this whole weekend, all I did was overeat, cry, and nap. 2 days of that. So yeah, not everything comes easily to me, that's for sure. We've all got stuff that we're good at and stuff that we're not. Okay. I don't understand this one. My son is almost 3 and he won't stop stumping his feet, and I've tried everything. What do you mean by stumping? You mean stomping when he's mad? Just ignore it. Yeah, I don't know what you mean. What's your opinion on screen time with toddlers? I don't really have an opinion on that because there's no science about how many hours or if they should even have any screen time. They say that our brain, and this is interesting, they say that the brain of young people is different. They don't have focus. My response to that, and I may be wrong, but do they need it? Like our world is very different now. So their brain is adapting to the new world. Do they really need the old horse and buggy brain? Don't they need a brain that can multitask and can take on new stuff? So I'm not so sure. Now, this is me talking. I don't know anything about it. I'm not a scientist. But it kind of makes sense to me that, yeah, your brain adapts to the century or whatever that you're living in, right? Does that make sense? Does that, and I'm not saying that kids should be on screens all day long, but it makes sense to me that they would be developing differently because we got stuff. I've got 4 screens going right now, and I often have a fifth. I can focus when I have to, but I'm not great at focusing at all. And that's not a great thing. And you know what I do to try and focus better is I read a book, an old fashioned, I've got a book behind me. I've got an old fashioned book I read, and it helps me to focus. So I think that if you mix reading and telling stories with kids and just one story, not flipping around to videos, focus on that and then let them have a little bit of screen time every day, I think that's fine. But when they're little, they're not usually scrolling, right? They're just watching one show. I think it's great if they watch a show. There's nothing wrong with that. My kids, we had in Australia where they were raised, we had Channel 2, which was a government channel, TV. We only had 3 stations, 7, 9, 10, and then Channel 2 was the government one. And it was mostly kids programming or educational documentaries at night. But when kids were awake, it was kids programming. It was fantastic. There's this show, I don't know if it's still running, but it was called Art Attack. And it was all about art. And it was just this dynamic young English guy. It was a Pommy show, English. And because I was in Australia, so most of the shows were English, British. And it was fantastic. My kids loved it. It's called Art Attack. So there's and it was all about creativity. And so that's a really good show. They also had a bunch of really good kid shows that were creative. So yeah, it depends on what they're watching. Crib to bed transition, when and how. I always said when my kids flop out like a fish on the wharf, when they flop out of bed the first time, I dismantled the crib. And I just put the mattress on the floor and then surrounded it with pillows. And then I did the bedtime battles course. They could get out of bed, but then every time they did, I just put them back to bed. If you want to know how to keep a kid in bed, check out the bedtime battles course. But yeah, once they flop out, that's it. I put them in their own bed. And if they are like really little, I would still do that, but I would put like a beeper or something on their door so I'd know when they open it. And they have to be able to open it. They have to be able to you can't lock them in their room. So yeah, when they flop out, that's dangerous if they could, flop out of their crib. How do you handle a child who cusses at you and flips you off? That's on you. You've taught them how to do that. Like, it's just the way it is. If they're 3 to 12 years old, they're a direct reflection of your parenting. It's just the way it is. So you're not fixing kids here. You're teaching yourself. When you become a leader, they don't do that. They would never do that. Work on yourself, your leadership skills. That's all this is. That means they don't feel respected. They don't feel heard. They don't feel disciplined. Every single troubled teen I've ever worked with has said the same thing. I wish my parents had been tougher on me growing up. Not now, but they identify discipline as love, and consistent discipline. It is love. So yeah. So fix yourself up. That's on you. It just is. Yeah. They don't do that with parents they respect. And they always respect leaders right through the teen years. My son was 15 and he said to me, he was kind of mad when he said it too. I think his friends were rebelling and he felt he was missing out. He was 15 and he says, I could never rebel. No, you've been a tough mother to have. And I said, what? I thought it was great. We were close. And he says, yeah, you've been a tough mother to have. And he says, because I could never rebel. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. I didn't know whether to celebrate or apologize. But yeah, they respect a leader. So work on yourself and that wouldn't happen. Check out the boot camp course. If they're 3 to 12 years old, check out the boot camp course. How do I really get into playing? Okay, what you do is you watch how they play and you join in. That's all. Just get started there. I had this one mom a while ago, and she said she'd never really played with her kid. He was, I think, about 8. I don't know. Anyway, he loved Lego. And I said, well, what about when he's doing Lego? Do you ever play with him with Lego? And she goes, no, she's never done it. She's never played with them. She takes him places, and he plays, but she's never played with him. She's never got down on the ground and played with him. So I said, okay, so your rule on the behavior board is no yelling. If you do yell, make sure you yell. You always want to break the rules, so you have to do the consequence, show them how this is done. So I said, your rules, you have to play Lego with him for 30 minutes. And she didn't want to do it. They were always at each other. She just didn't want to do it. So I said, you have to. I said, that's it. You have to do that. So anyway, she came back. I don't know what the next session, it was probably week 3 or something in coaching. And she came back and she had a big smile on her face. And I said, what? And she goes, I didn't play Lego for 30 minutes. And I said, what? And she goes, no, I played for 3 hours. She sat down on the ground and played with him, and he curled up in her lap and he kept rubbing his head on her chin. And she said she didn't know he loved her that much, but she'd never played with him. Like, get down on their level, play with them, and you'd be amazed what can happen. That's how I connected with kids when I was working with them. I always entered their world. Yeah. With kids, I use fun. With teenagers, I use humor. So you connect. You don't discipline, you connect. And I don't take any crap either, so they learn that pretty quick. Do you work with parents one-on-one? Yeah, I do coaching. I'm a parenting coach. So if you look in the link above, I don't have time for taking everybody on these days, but I do like to mix up the ages. So sometimes I'll turn someone down and then actually what happened was, it's kind of embarrassing. But what happens is sometimes people know each other and then they say, I'm going to hire her too. So then I couldn't hire one, but I hired the other, but they had different age kids. That was funny. It was kind of, I got caught out. I ended up I took them both on. It's kind of embarrassing. What ages is the bedtime battles for? That's a course 2 to 8 years old, and they have to be out of the crib. 2 to 8 years old. They have to be able to get up on their own. Okay. How do you deal with a 3-year-old that spits at you when they can't get their own way? By 3 years old, they're doing that because it would have worked in the past. You can't show any anger. You can just go, oh, no spitting, and then just clean up and then ignore them. They spit again, say, no, clean up and ignore them. But yeah, there's other things involved in that too, but I would have to know exactly the situation. So you just make sure they don't get anything they want when that's happening. If they had something that they wanted, it would be taken away. But there's no anger. If you show anger, they've won. There's no emotions in discipline. Discipline is like a business transaction. My son used to say to other kids, if I was babysitting or something, he'd say, if my mom ever whispers, run. That's when I'm disciplining. I'd say, oh, didn't like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to sit over here for 5 minutes with me and we'll just read a book, okay? So they couldn't play with the other kids. Okay, do you understand? And they would. But they were so confused. That's how I discipline. It's very quiet, very calm. I made the wrong decision sleeping with my daughter all the time, so now she can't go to sleep. Bedtime battles is a huge, huge part of what I talk about. It comes up a lot. It's one of the hardest things to deal with, but it's one of the fastest ones to solve. So it often is one night of sheer hell, sometimes 2 or 3, but it gets easier. But the first night, if the worse that first night is, the more chance you've got of them never getting out of bed again. It's hell. It's called Bedtime Battles for a reason, and it's one of my courses. You might want to check that out. I deal with that at least, I don't know how many times a week that comes up in coaching, but I do have a mini course on that, and it's also in the boot camp course. And someone asked if all the mini courses are in the boot camp course. Well, the mini courses, most of them are just for toddlers under the age of 3. So no, we deal with some of the same topics, but it's dealt with differently at 3. So in the boot camp course, they're 3 and over. So the same topics, but different way of dealing with it, except bedtime battles. Bedtime battles goes from 2 to 8. There's a little bit of crossover in there with the other ones too, but when I'm doing the boot camp course, that I'm very, very careful. It is 3 to 12 years old. It can stretch to 14 depending on their maturity level. How can I sign up for the courses? Everything I have is in the link above, and be very careful with that. Just use that link and follow it through, because there's lots of scammers. I've got like over 1 million followers now on social media. And unfortunately, when that happens, you get scammers out there. And there's all sorts of people pretending to be Bratbusters and Lisa, and they're using my videos, my information. They've got courses that look like mine, and they're not. It's all me. Like this is me in the link. But it's frustrating. People are getting scammed out of money. Nothing I can do. Evidently, they're scammers everywhere, and they change their IP addresses and everything. They can't be caught. It's not me. Like, I can't control that. Nothing to do with me. But yeah, just make sure you follow that link. I've been saying that more and more, so less people are getting scammed, I've noticed. I'm assuming the people who do that must be watching me, because it doesn't happen as much. I don't know. If you want to sign up for a course, yeah, you can just go in the link above. I tell my 2-year-old no. She doesn't cry. She just nicely repeats herself over and over again. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know what you mean. My daughter's 6. She's very aggressive and rude. Okay. It's just a reflection of your parenting. Remember, we're never fixing kids here. We're teaching parents. Check out the boot camp course. That might be perfect for you. It's all about you, how to set yourself up as a leader. When you lead, they just don't act like that, right? You got to earn that respect. Parents always blame their kids for that behavior. You've taught them to do that. You have. They don't do that if they respect you, they don't do that. You got to work for that. You got to earn their respect. And I teach you how to do that. You got to work for it. I worked my butt off when I was working with kids. I worked to get that respect. And then once you get to a certain level with it, it comes easy. You just know how to do it. Like that 8-year-old kid that said to me, he said, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I said to him, bring it on. And he never did. He did, because I'm like, bring it on. I know how to deal with it. Like, behind every fit, scene, tantrum, and outburst is a lesson. So I invite them, bring it on. Good luck with that. I didn't say that. That's what I was thinking. Good luck with that. He never did. Good as gold with me. But I've earned that. I've figured it out. Sorry, I don't let anyone in on these videos at all. I only did it once. I was brand new to doing these lives a couple years ago. And I let someone in. I didn't know what it meant to let, someone said, "Can I come in?" So I let them in and they just talked about their business. I used to have a lot more followers because I had 26,000 people in one live. It was the biggest live I ever had. And it was a couple of years ago. And I just had some viral videos. I had like 4 or 5 in a row. So that's why I got like 26,000 people in there. And that person came in and started trying to sell their business. I didn't know how to get rid of them. But I did eventually. So yeah, ever since then, I've never done it. It just scared me because I'm here to serve you. I'm here to give you value for turning up. I want you to get some parenting inspiration, some answers. I don't want you to be sold this person's stuff. Oh, it's terrible. And then the person said, "Oh, well, I'm just introducing myself. I do have a parenting question." Delete, you're gone. Good luck with that. Yeah, I never did it again. Live and learn. Okay. Does your method work well for autistic or developmentally delayed kids? It could. It could. I've worked with lots of those kids. But usually I always say that's more of a specialty, and that is just one-on-one coaching with me if you're interested. But it can work. Depends on where on the spectrum they are, or how cognitive they are with understanding right from wrong and stuff like that. It can work. If anything, what parents have told me, because I always suggest if you've got a child with special needs, you make sure you've got all the other stuff covered, like the play therapist and all that other stuff covered. I'm just here for parenting. I can give you more clarity on how to move forward and how to act and how to be a leader for your child. So no matter what they've got going on, I can still teach you how to be a leader. But their reaction, their behavior is a bit of a hit and miss because I have to figure out what's going to work and what isn't going to work. Sometimes it's trial and error, especially with autistic children. Because some of them, they're very different. Some will react very well to certain things and others just hate it. So yeah, it just depends. Are the courses videos? They're mostly written, but there's videos of me just introducing stuff and adding a few extra tips. Then I've also just recently, as of last week, I finished adding a whole series of videos into the course with group coaching sessions with parents, just like you. So there's like 20 parents or whatever in there, and they're all asking questions. It's a Q&A, and they're going through the course with me. I'm going through the course with them. So yeah, we go through it. And all those videos are now on the course. That was just a one-off that I did because I wanted to touch base. That course is almost 1 year old now. So I wanted to touch base and see how it was going. And also I wanted their videos on the course. So you can see what other parents are going through. They're just like you. You're not alone. If you're dealing with something, chances are someone else is too. A lot of parents are really embarrassed when they're telling me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, what else you got to talk about? Like, I mean, it's all stuff I hear all the time, right? But because parents don't tend to share, they tend to be embarrassed when their kids are doing stuff. I was lucky. I raised my kids in Australia. We used to compete over who had the worst kids. We were always laughing at how dumb we were as mothers. Wait till you hear what my kid did. It was more self-deprecating. There wasn't the competition that there is in North America is more competitive with that sort of stuff. You like to put on the show. In Australia, it's not like that. They were very different. We were all laughing at how dumb we were, stupid things we did. And so, yeah, it wasn't really the bragging and stuff. It was an easier place to raise kids, I think. I'm sure there was some of that too, but yeah, not with my friends, really. Thank you. You've done wonders in my home and have helped me be a leader. Excellent. Well, I've just given you the advice and you've done the work. So pat yourself on the back. It's like anything, you can read up on what to do. Like I do a lot of stuff in business, stuff I should organize and stuff. And I go, what a great idea. But do I implement most of it? No. If I write it all down, oh yeah. But you're the ones doing it. So pat yourself on the back. If I ever implemented all this great information I get on business and back end organization, yeah, I'd be proud of myself too. But you got to implement it in what you're doing. That's good for you. Oops. Okay, I have to get going now. I can feel my voice is starting to go because I coach all day and then I come on here and do this. So my voice, I've only got so much. I try and not be as loud. I get really excited when I'm talking about parenting. So I used to sort of shout more. I'm getting better at preserving my voice, but it still gets to me after about 8 hours. Anyway, I got to get going. Thanks so much for joining me. Check out the link above. It's got my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and you can look into coaching. And you can't email me questions about parenting because I'm not going to answer them. This is where I answer general parenting questions. But if you want to sign up for coaching, you can email me the ages of your children and what challenges you have. And I can't take everyone on these days, but I will look and I'll let you know. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll talk again. I don't know when exactly. I used to do these every day. I just don't have time anymore. So hopefully over the weekend, I'll try and do another live. If not, I do my regular Tuesday and Thursday night lives. And happy parenting. We'll talk soon. Bye now.